sets of, we have 2 sets of meeting minutes to review.
Nancy,
So-
we just need to establish who's taking minutes.
Oh, who's taking minutes? If there was a rotation, Lexington took minutes last time, and does that mean Lincoln is up? Or does anyone else want to?
I can take minutes for the park.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Jen. Thank you, Jen. Okay, and so the minutes of October 28th. We should probably have a roll call too, right? I think that can go quickly. So Minuteman National Historical Park, say aye, or here.
Aye. Yep, here.
Arlington,
Paul Fennelly, Clarissa is here. George
Yeah.
Parsons could not make the meeting today.
okay, and Lincoln. it's here,
Paula Vaughn McKenzie and Bob Dominance are here.
Yeah. And Concord's here. Did I forget anybody? It's only five parties, so I think we're all here. And we can start with the October 28th meeting minutes. I don't know who took those, but that was quite a meeting. And these minutes are really, really pretty well done. I don't know who took those. Is anybody here who took them? Do you remember? They're not signed, so. Does anyone have any comments?
I move that they be approved as distributed.
I have a comment.
Oh, okay.
On the second, I have 2 little comments. One's big, actually. Under number 2, item number 2, it was the elections. It doesn't actually say we were elected.
I think
And
that was,
it doesn't say that Richard was elected to be secretary.
I think that was the meeting before the election.
Well, I'm trying to figure out then what is the meeting after where we were elected? Because we didn't meet on Thanksgiving, and I think Heather and I established tentatively that we did not meet in December on the 23rd.
Hmm.
So,
Nancy, Jane here. I distinctly remember that the nominations were done here, and then the election was actually done at the January meeting.
oh, you remember January. Okay, well, those are one of the meeting minutes that are missing. So I have a lot of notes on those, and Heather had a few.
Well, wait a minute. The January 6th, you have minutes here. But
I'm sorry, but it doesn't, yeah, you're right.
You have
I'm
2,
off.
you're missing
I'm
the election of the committee, and then you have a ad hoc working group who you all do have listed. So you missed the election.
Yeah, we've
Somebody
missed,
missed the election under minutes. for
maybe,
January 2nd.
maybe we weren't really elected. I think that can be sorted out. So the only other thing I noticed on the October 28th minutes was on
The elections weren't on the January 6th agenda.
yeah, I wasn't.
Might have been, but they should have been. Excuse me.
They were on the December agenda.
I think we finalized that in December. So.
I missed that meeting, sorry.
Oh, yeah, okay. All right, then Richard had a motion on the table.
Okay, so I guess I do have a change. So on October 28th, Chris Clem, so MassDOT has 2 liaisons to our committee, Tim Paris and Chris Clem, so he should be moved up to attendees.
Okay. Okay. I think I can make those 2 changes, and we could have a motion to approve as amended in terms of electing 3 officers and moving Chris Klim up to attendees. Is there a second?
I'm seconding it.
Well, you
Mr.
made the
Keanu
motion.
Lexington.
You made the motion.
Oh, okay. You just said you
I'm gonna
did.
have to call him.
Okay. I'll second it. I can second, I think. Let's see. Clarissa?
No,
No,
Nancy, you
yeah.
can't second.
I'll
Oh, I
second it.
can't second. Oh, thank you.
No.
I'm getting my legs still. Is there a second? Thank you, Clarissa. Okay, do you want to start, Arlington? Votes? We have a roll call vote
I thought we
to
did
approve
that
the
already.
minutes of October 28th.
Oh, okay, yes,
As
we
amended.
approve, we approve. Paul and
Okay.
I read them in detail.
Yeah, they were good minutes, I thought. Lincoln,
Hi.
All
Bob? Yeah,
Yeah, aye.
Lexington,
Hearing nothing from Sheila or Jeannie, we approve.
and Concord. And the votes yes, and the park.
Yes, approved.
Thank you. So January 6th meeting minutes should be easier since we clarified when the election was. Does anyone have any changes to the January 26th minutes? Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Lexington.
Second,
Okay, Arlington?
yes.
Yes. Concord votes yes. Lexington
Yes.
and Lincoln
yes,
Aye.
and the park.
Yes,
Okay, so approved. Thank you. Put that on the other side of my desk. We have a big meeting item to go over next, and that's the review of the working group's February 22nd draft. Some of you have followed this through a couple of iterations. My personal feeling is that it's important that the Scenic Byway Committee come forth with some kind of a recommendation in response to Mass Highway. I think the worst thing for us might be to remain silent. And the working group worked really hard. I think there were 3 drafters of this, what you see before you today, and it represents our best and most concerted effort to craft something that would receive the approval of the committee. So with that, we could go round robin and say what we think or what questions we might still have. Clarissa, do you have something? You're muted.
Here, I'm no longer muted. You'll be sorry. I want to thank the working group for doing such a lot of work. They really worked hard, and there are lots of iterations of this. But the town of Arlington can't support this memo for a variety of reasons. I'm sorry that the Battle Road Scenic Byway didn't go as I did last Friday afternoon. Federal Highway and MassDOT had a really excellent presentation of the project. And some of us were there, but it was really very thorough, talked about all the past meetings they had. Wendell, you were there, I believe. And it reminded me
Well,
of
good morning.
Oh, Richard, you're not muted. Oh, there you are. Okay.
okay. Anyway, we've discussed it, the 3 of us, George and Paul and I, and we don't feel we can support this. There are a number of reasons. It's too long, it's too wordy. It could be made into 5 points. I think there you have something of an antiquated view of MassDOT as a roadway agency for Massachusetts. They're not a roadway entity only for Massachusetts. They probably build more bike trails and pedestrian trails than any other entity in the Commonwealth. And I think that we really need to, we don't want to lecture them about how we understand the pedestrian and bike needs, and they don't, because they do, they really do. And I think it's insulting. I don't want to specifically name people at MassDOT. This is a agency-wide project, and Chris and Tim have had to come to the meetings, but they're not responsible for this, and I don't like using their names. You know, and crosswalks do slow traffic. That is a given. And for us to say they don't is short-sighted. And, you know, I'm a supporter of what the town of Lincoln wants to do. I do, however, understand that the national park has objections to those crosswalks. If I were the superintendent, I would as well, because what we have here is crosswalks that go to no place. And I would like to see MassDOT, as I said on Friday at that meeting, work with the national park to provide paths to the circulation system of the national park. This should be a cost for MassDOT and Federal Highway, and not for the park, and not for Lincoln. This is, you know, this is an important project. I don't want to stall it. I want it to go ahead. I want to fix that road before the birthday celebration. And, you know, we're on the Battle Road. We have a lot of crosswalks in Arlington. I think so does Lexington, so does Lincoln. I mean, crosswalks do slow traffic. The other thing is pavement color is not our bailiwick. We can't talk about the color of crosswalks. That's a safety issue. And then the signage, I think you're right to talk about having an all-American road sign, but that's about it. Because I think the signage is really up to MassDOT and also up to the national park and not to us. And I agree that we don't want to have too many signs. I think they understand that. But as the statement is written, we feel we can't support it. And we're sorry to the working group that's worked so hard, because it's not good enough yet.
I
If
assume Lincoln will weigh in next. Go ahead.
Yes, we will. Bob, do you want to go ahead? Or do you
Well,
want
I
me
just had to run away from the screen for a minute to get some legal process that I got served at the front door. So Paula, you're going to get this too. I was worried that it had to do with the Byway Committee, but it's actually the Planning Board.
Oh, fantastic.
So I didn't hear everything Clarissa said. Lincoln also would not sign on to this opinion. I'm sorry I didn't hear all your remarks, Clarissa. I think we could craft something that we could all agree to if we just eliminated crosswalks from the discussion or from our recommendation. But the working group has had 3 meetings. We have profound differences about crosswalks, and I don't think it can be resolved amongst ourselves. And I don't think the Byway Committee helps its cause by delivering a contested position to MassDOT. So I would just pass on that. And really, I think we could craft something that everybody else agreed to. With respect to the draft that we're considering right now, there were 2 things that really jumped out. One is this persistent talk about phase 1 and phase 2. And really, that's I know that Paul Stedman wrote a letter in January that referenced the phase 2. very briefly, but I don't think it showed any commitment to a phase 2 ever happening. And I think as a matter of sort of common sense, it would never happen until phase 1 is ready for a repaving, maybe 20 years from now. So I don't think anybody on our committee should be hanging their hat on a phase 2 and as a reason to that phase 2 would justify a delay in any part of the project. The other thing that we haven't talked about, at least Paula and I haven't, but this maybe we have actually, Paula, the layering in the first couple of paragraphs where there sort of a separation of two sorts of priorities within the corridor management plan, that there are these aspirational goals and then there are more immediate goals. I don't see that in the corridor management plan. I don't think it should be referenced in our report.
I agree with you,
Right.
Bob,
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
that as well. And to say that pedestrian bicycle improvements are aspirational, I think is
It's not.
completely
Yeah.
incorrect.
And certainly, just as a matter of procedure, we didn't discuss that sort of prioritization in the working group. Maybe we can
did.
discuss it now.
We did.
Okay, well, we've had disagreements about what's actually happened at some of our meetings, so it's been hard. I do see a path forward for all of us to agree on a recommendation, but it would not include crosswalks unless we agree that there should be crosswalks. So, and we're not at that point right now. So, I think that's where we stand. Paula, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I was very troubled with the language in this draft that says that traffic calming measures do not slow traffic. I think these are proven methods. They are adopted by Federal Highway. They are adopted by MassDOT. They are adopted by the National Park Service Transportation Guidelines. These do not come out of the air, and they do slow traffic. Also, Lincoln is well aware of the heavy use by pedestrians and bicyclists of this corridor. We've been advocating for this type of infrastructure for a long time, and this resurfacing project is a golden opportunity to get these included in this project. And I will say that a repaving project is one of the things that in the National Park Service guidelines says is an opportunity to include pedestrian and bicyclist safety infrastructure. So I also think that just repaving and not putting in these traffic calming measures will only serve to make it a speedway for cut through traffic and trucks. And what these pedestrian infrastructure and the traffic calming will do is slow the traffic and make it less appealing for cut through traffic and trucks. This will do more to make the park experience better than anything else we can possibly do, because less traffic, less noise, lower speeds will all serve to make the road safer, make it more usable by pedestrians and bicyclists, will make it less appealing as a speedway, and will make the park experience much better. And this is what were the conclusions of the Lincoln Historical Commission in their letter to MassDOT, that they think that this idea that pedestrian improvements and the park experience cannot coexist, I don't see that as a valid analysis. The,
Okay.
the National Park Service own transportation guidelines have pedestrian crossings and all of the things that are proposed in these plans right in their transportation guidelines. We are expecting loads of tourists coming for the 250th. We have existing populations, vulnerable populations using this corridor. And Lincoln feels very strongly across the board. We vetted this really thoroughly with all the boards and committees. And we are in strong support of this project. And the last thing I will say is I agree with Clarissa that, and the National Park Service, Simone's comments that we need to work with the park to make sure that the crosswalks take people safely into the park.
One other thing I'd like to just add, the park is on both sides of Route 2A. And without crosswalks, people can't get to the south side of the park. The park has been grazing animals, sheep, and those steers on the
Yeah.
south side. And really the only people that can see them now are the people in cars. And so, you know, let's bind the park together. Right now it's split in half, and half of it is not usable to the people who park in the main parking lots for the park.
Okay, thank you. Lincoln? Lexington, thank you, Lincoln. Lexington.
So if we remember back,
Can I interrupt you for a minute? Can we save public comment till the end? I see Sarah has her hand up, and then Sheila also has her hand up. Okay.
Yeah, I'm yeah, so I can speak.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Richard was speaking, and then, but you had your hand up, so.
Sheila can go first.
Go ahead.
So I'm not sure that Lexington is of one mind in this letter. I have not spoken with Richard or Jean. But it seems like potentially we can agree on the idea of requesting an exemption for the wooden guardrails. Because I strongly encourage that, because I think the aesthetics is very important. However, safety is also very important. And I think we are doing a disservice to the community if we are focusing only on the resurfacing and kind of discounting the pedestrian and bicycle safety measures as well as the traffic calming measures. I think it seems that we all agree we would like to see reduced speeds. And in order to get those reduced speeds, we need these traffic calming measures. The splitter islands will help reduce the speeds. The crosswalks will help reduce the speeds. It will also help pedestrians cross the street and access both sides of the park. So I agree with what Lincoln and Arlington has been saying. And frankly, I think it's the same position as the letter that came from the town manager way back when, in that because this roadway, because of these improvements are mostly in Lincoln, we generally defer to what Lincoln wants and feels that they need. While if we can balance some of the aesthetics, that would be great. But I think the safety measures is what is more paramount. It's a busy road with all sorts of users, and so we need to try to best accommodate them as possible. So I think it's prudent for us to work with MassDOT and not push off this project, because they are offering a considerable improvements, and that'll help us reduce the speed, because once these improvements are in, they can come back and do a speed study, and we can get the posted speeds reduced to ideally 30. And I think these measures will help do that.
Okay, thanks, Sheila. Richard?
Yeah, so I think we sort of are doing things backwards. I mean, with the two original proposal was we can't do anything about the speeds. The only way to do the speeds is if we stick stuff there to calm traffic, maybe the speeds will be reduced. So inherently in the proposal was the idea that there would be two phases. The phase one would be to slow the speeds down. In phase two would be at least figuring out whether we can change the posted speed. And that all of that happened when the byway was a state scenic byway, because that's what it was. But things have changed, and now we're a federal, and we have federal highway guidelines that we are responsible for. And that when we made the application and MassDOT decided to send our application, and we have these other things. So part of the problem is what comes first. Throw stuff up on the road to try and slow speed down, in which case what we're doing is putting cyclists in vulnerable positions, because they're the ones who are going to try to reduce the speed. I mean, MassDOT, I'll give them credit. Originally, when they started, they says we're going to have 33 bicycle signs on the roadway, and then later they changed it to 22, and now they're eliminating all bicycle signs. So in other words, they're saying we know it's not going to be safe for cyclists, and obviously it's debatable whether they're going to be safer or not as safe, and that's a engineering and value judgment for that. So, I mean, Federal Highway, as of before Friday's meeting, were informed that this was a two-phase project. I mean, I guess I have a question for Clarissa. I know I had asked you about asking that the Battle Road Byway be a consulting party. And I know Nancy.
I don't think what they said on Friday afternoon is we are a consulting party.
Oh.
This was, and that's why I'm so sorry it wasn't recorded, because
Okay.
it was an excellent presentation.
I didn't
of
actually.
federal.
Clarissa, could you repeat what you said about what MassDOT said Friday afternoon?
Yes, no, MassDOT and Federal Highway both said that we are a consulting party.
Good.
And they made that very clear. And they also said that that they wanted to consult more with us, and that the Section 106 findings have not been finalized. They want to reach out, and I think they need to talk to the park, most especially. And the head of the MassDOT 106, Jeff Shrimpton, was just excellent. And he, I'm sorry that it wasn't recorded. It was a very good presentation and lots of listening. So I was very pleased with it.
I think that's important for the committee to hear, that we're considered a consulting party under 106, because my experience over the last few weeks with the working group is that opinion is not necessarily draft or.
I did not.
Did we get notice of it, Nancy or Clarissa?
I did not hear
About
that. It's not in my notes. So
Well,
I was there, but
it was at the beginning, Nancy, I think, before you got on.
Yeah, I was greatly handicapped because I could not get on and other people could not get on. It was very unfortunate, but anyway, could we let Richard finish, and then we can have the Park and Concord make comments, and then we can have a more general conversation.
Yeah, so I think the bottom line is,
Don't go too long.
is whether or not we want to apply federal highway standards to what we do and what is possible. In the slideshow that MassDOT had Friday, they talked about what kinds of traffic calming measures are applicable or not. And so what they say is that for this roadway, at 40 miles an hour. The beacons are required, and there are very few other traffic calming things. At 30 miles an hour, beacons are generally not allowed. And, so that, one of the things, the working group has a few things that they've agreed to unanimously. One is that the speed needs to be reduced. And part of the question is, how valid is MassDOT's position to say we can't do it unless we have a speed study, when other federal highways says in their guidance different things. And so that it seems that a real key part of it is that if we say there's only a phase one, then we have lost the opportunity to reduce the speeds because there's nothing else that can be done about it. Whatever happens, happens, and the next thing won't be for another 20 years. Obviously, that's MassDOT's position. Our position from the Battle Road is that there's going to be grant money, and how do we want to use that grant money, and do we want to try and really ensure that pedestrians and cyclists are really going to be safer on this part of the Battle Road compared to what MassDOT is proposing. And to me, that's really the key part of it.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Jennifer? I'm not seeing you right now, but
Hello.
I know you're out there.
I'm here. So I'm standing in for Superintendent Simone Monteleone. Essentially, the park's position is that despite Friday's meeting, which the superintendent attended, at which it was stated that there is no phase two, we are awaiting MassDOT's official response that states in writing that there is no phase two. We will return to these considerations in early March. The current position regarding crosswalks and feasibility of the park supporting any crosswalks is to say that the one connector that exists would be to cross Bedford Road, cross 2A at Bedford Road. When we speak about pedestrians' ability to cross from one side of the park to the other, that's where we step into the area of there's a grade concerns, safety concerns, lack of trail connector concerns. So the park can support, put support towards the Bedford Road crosswalk.
Jennifer, are you sure you mean Bedford
Can
Road
we-
and not
can we-
Bedford Lane?
Sorry, Bedford Lane. Bedford
Okay.
Lane. Yep,
Okay,
thank you.
sorry.
Thank you for that correction. Yeah.
Okay, and basically the park's letter was very specific. And I'd like to speak for Concord right now. I think you all know what I think, and I think Concord is of the opinion that the park's letter is very detailed, very carefully reasoned, very well supported with input from other highway transportation planners. They are speaking in terms of what is good also for the national park, which took millions of dollars and decades of work to create something that the American public and 1 million visitors a year enjoy. I think Concord is not convinced that what we're presented with today, especially in terms of the raised structures, honors the national park or the experience. And while postponing that may be problematical, I think to say that it's 10 years down the road is not correct. There will be money forthcoming for the, I forget now which this tranche of money is called, but the recovery from the COVID economy. I think that a national park with an all-American road would have a good opportunity not only to get Scenic Byway or funding, or to get funding for infrastructure improvements in the near future, is probably very good. I think Concord wants first there to be no harm. And what if these crosswalks and raised structures are not effective? It's not 100% guaranteed. There's lots of space between them to speed up. If they don't work, the answer is more of them. And then if that doesn't work, there will be crosswalk or stoplights and all kinds of other lighting. And we do know what phase 2 looks like, by the way, and we've known it since 2019 or before. It will include full depth reconstruction. It will include other traffic calming efforts if these are not perfectly able to do that. A speed study will not guarantee a reduction in speed even after these things are put in place. So from the very beginning, the historical perspective has been missing from discussions around this table. And I think that a pause is not fatal. And I think first we should do no harm to an asset that belongs to all the American people. I know people have said most of it's in Lincoln and Lincoln should get what it wants. That means every town should get what it wants when it only affects their town. That negates the purpose and the significance of the Battle Road Scenic Byway Committee, to my way of thinking. So that's what I.
Nancy,
Can
are there other representatives from Concord that can speak at this time?
Yeah, I've spoken with.
No, I mean on the call today.
Well, Heather Gill is hosting the call,
I'm here. I don't have any additional comments to add.
and Beth Williams is not on the call, and she is often not on the call. So I'm afraid you may need to Concord.
Well, I just saying that because your comments are really very, very strong, and it would be good to know if there are other points of view and perspective from the important town of Concord.
We have had conversations among us. We have said we all agree, and even beyond our sphere, we agree on speed. We agree on the Lexington Road and the Airport Road intersection work. We agree with the reduction to 10.5-foot lanes. We agree with wood guardrails. We agree with simple repaving. But I think to say that this project helps bicycle safety, I'm speaking as a landscape architect and a member of the Historical Commission mostly now. But I can speak about safety too. And I wonder how putting 4-foot wide raised structures that make it difficult for cars to move in case of an emergency, how does that help preserve a shoulder of any safe width for bicycles along the corridor? It just doesn't happen. This corridor is restricted, and Mass Highway has said that as well. So I don't know.
All right, so as of now, you're the only person from Concord going on record here at this meeting, which is, I don't know.
Heather said she didn't have anything else to add. I wouldn't discount Heather Gill. So.
Yeah, I don't have any additional comments to add. I think Nancy covered it.
All right, thank you.
So I think, the 106 process has not played out. Mass Highway is very, very careful now about not having a segmented project and about not having involved historical commissions. And this project looks to me like it was cooked from 2019 in most of its essential components, but I think we can go to public comment.
I just want to add one thing.
Oh,
uh,
actually, we should have
Nancy.
discussion. Sorry.
Nancy, I don't think it's accurate to say that the folks who are in favor of crosswalks have not considered historic values. We've considered them. We don't think that there's a big impact on them.
I know. I
So,
didn't say that.
compared
I
to the-
read Lincoln's Historical Commission letter as well. So I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that those voices have been very, very much kind of a secondary consideration.
I agree with Bob. I don't think that's the case. I think that's an
Okay.
inaccurate characterization.
Okay.
We, in fact, Lincoln was the first town to get back to MassDOT about the vegetative clearing and the guardrails. So that was first and foremost. And now everyone is taking that as a given, but that was Lincoln's position. Lincoln is very concerned with the aesthetic of the road, with the rural character of the road, but cars and trucks going 50 miles an hour is not a rural road.
There has to be a discussion of alternatives, and there never has been a discussion of different alternatives and ways to slow traffic. And I
Just
don't wanna have
reducing
this be
The
just-
alternative that has been proposed by Richard is to just have MassDOT put up signs that say the speed is now 30 miles an hour and repave the road. And anybody driving on a repaved road that they're already going 45 plus on is not going to make them slow down. It's just going to make them go faster.
I agree, it's not
So
enough, but
That's
there-
not,
and-
that's not an option that really makes any sense. But I think that we are in disagreement here. And that's kind of where we are.
right. I would suggest that we have public comment now and comment from others, because if we wait to the end of this meeting, maybe we can have a more open discussion here and include people who have spent a long time trying to understand what's going on here too. So I think I saw Sarah's hand up first. Sarah, you're muted.
Thank you. And I really appreciate all the hard work, and I understand the passions that are reflected in various comments here. People have invested a lot of time and energy and thought in working on this and working overall from their towns and the various positions. I have a couple of comments regarding process, and then I have a couple of specific comments. Regarding process, it's extremely unfortunate that these meetings have not all systematically been recorded and been available through the town websites and through the state or wherever else. That said, there should be minutes, and minutes should be made available and shared. And again, through each town, they should be easily, it should be navigated easily. So the comments Clarissa made about this meeting that apparently some felt was a very good meeting, those slide decks from MassDOT should be available and should be shared with this committee, because Clarissa's advocated that they offer some very good information. And there should be minutes.
I have the slide deck. I'll put it on the town website.
Okay, if that could be shared, Paula, with all the other towns, so they could put it on their websites.
I'm sure they were all emailed the slide deck. Everybody was emailed the slide deck.
We could do that.
Great. And then secondly, what I'm hearing is a lot of interpretations of what went on at various meetings, and it becomes a he said, she said. And what MassDOT said, it has become a he said, she said. So a distinct, a letter asking for clarification from this committee, from MassDOT on some very specific questions is in order. And I would urge holding off on any further discussion about what MassDOT said and what other people think they said, that he said, she said, until you have something in writing in front of you, because it's causing acrimony within the committee, and that's extremely unfortunate. This committee has tremendous opportunities to work with the park and with the Fed on providing better access and better safety for all for this national asset. And now we have federal designation as American Highway. I mean, we all should be proud of that instead of squabbling internally. I think it's extremely unfortunate that committee members should imply that other committee members are not doing their due diligence. And going back to a process question, when you raise an issue about one committee member speaking for, they are the designated rep of that town. And to challenge them to say, well, the implication is they're not speaking for their town because they're the only person seen on the screen is not fair. So I would urge within for each representative to get a letter, to get an email that confirms, that poses a position that is signed on for by the agencies they're representing, the board of the select board, et cetera, et cetera. Having things in writing, having a paper trail is critical, and it will prevent a lot of this internal debate and accusations, which is undermining the potential effectiveness of this committee. Now, on to some specifics. This notion that right now the crosswalks are crosswalks to nowhere. I've commented on that before. They're handicapped accessible, but it's not, you can't get to that accessibility safely. So there's no handicapped accessibility to access the handicapped accessible crosswalk. It's kind of like, nonsense going on here. So without some agreement that there will be connectivity, safe connectivity on either side of the road to access these crosswalks, they make absolutely no sense. And there was a suggestion, I believe Clarissa said that that MassDOT might pay for the pathways to go along park property, federal property. Well, that might be well and good, but before you advocate for the crosswalks, let's get these paths in place and let's get confirmation that MassDOT will pay for them and that the Park Service will accept those finances and will oversee the construction of those paths to meet park standards. And then they make sense, except for the flashing lights. And I don't see how you can argue that 4 to 7 sets of flashing lights. I don't know, what is the crosswalk number up to now? I went back to Tool and it was 4.
It's 4, Sarah, and it's 4,
Okay.
and those beacons are only activated when someone is crossing.
I understand that. They are very intrusive, Paula. You cannot deny that they aren't intrusive. There is a reason that Lincoln would not allow them in our historic district center, except at the farthest end away from.
We have one right
I'm
at
going to interrupt here.
I put it in, Paula.
Wait. Sarah, wait. I don't want to have a debate here between
Yes.
any of us
Yep.
two. We have other people who want to speak.
So
Maybe we
I
could
will-
allow Sarah to finish her comment.
Thank you. The one we put in the historic center, I was involved in putting that in. I was on the committee and I was a selectman at that point in time. And it was intentionally put as far away because it was considered so intrusive. That is a statement of fact and you can read it in our minutes. So my proposal was that to make any endorsement of crosswalks conditional upon what Clarissa has suggested is that MassDOT will provide the funding for said crosswalks and that the Park Service will organize how they're to appear, how they're to look, and that they will move forward with that. Then you have truly safe passage you are truly enhancing a park experience. You are
Mm-hmm.
truly enhancing a pedestrian safety. I can't comment on bikes. I don't know anything about that.
Mm.
But so my suggestion is to write a conditional approval. Although now I'm a little concerned that the park's position is at this point that they're only comfortable with that one crosswalk. But that
And Concord's.
at a minimum, support what the park has suggested with some connectivity, paths of connectivity. And then perhaps set aside for some other discussion with the park regarding these others, if in fact these paths could be created in such a way that they were an enhancement from the park's perspective. That's it. Sorry, I'm done.
Thank you. Thank you. Put your hand down. Carlin,
Thank you. Carlin Reed, 83 Wits End. I'm a Concord citizen who actually listens to what you folks have to say. This has been an interesting discussion, and I want to assure you that what Nancy says is supported by people in Concord. So this is public member support. That's it.
thank you, Carlin. Melissa Sawfield.
Yeah, hang on. Good morning. I too I am a member of the Concord Historical Commission, and we have discussed this not nearly as much as you. I recognize it's a very complicated and complex issue and a lot of different viewpoints and concerns. But as Carlin said, we in Concord, certainly the Historical Commission supports what Nancy has said. We are concerned about the intrusions that these will make on an historic rural road. And we also appreciate the concern for safety. But as Nancy also said, it would be interesting to discuss some alternatives. Right now, it is a series of crosswalks that don't necessarily connect to anything, with the one exception that the Park Service has mentioned. We have written actually to the governor, to our state representatives and legislatures to partly because of the process and, in reference with what Sarah was talking about, we feel that we have not been consulted adequately in our communication. It has gotten better, but only because we sent several letters trying to get the attention. It's about all I want to say, because I'm not a landscape architect. As I've said to Nancy, I don't speak highway, but I do care, and speaking for the Historical Commission, we care deeply about this park and the road and its importance to not only our area, but the American people. Thank you.
Thanks, Melissa. I'm trying to take your hand down, but I can't. So Jane Herlocker.
Oh.
Raise your hand, Bob.
Thank you, everyone. As most of you know, I live behind the ranger station in Lincoln. And I've been attending as an observer since, I'm also an official member of the Roadside and Traffic Committee appointed by the selectmen in Lincoln. And this whole issue started with them about 3 years ago, I think 2.5, 3 years ago. And I've been trying to follow it through our Bikeway and Pedestrian Committee. I've tried to attend any meetings that were brought up, although I have to admit I haven't attended planning board meetings. I have tried to attend more recently the Byway meetings and the working group. And a lot of great ideas have been going on. But one of the things that concerns me, especially when I see the 2 Lincoln reps say, we're speaking for Lincoln, I just don't feel that my point of view, as I live here, and Bob lives here too, up in this end, that pedestrians and bicyclists are actually understand what it's like to live here. We live between 2 major highways, and the only way you're going to slow traffic down is to enforce a lower speeding limit. And as everybody's heard, who's heard me before, put stop signs at Bedford Road. And I have never seen that mentioned, never seen it discussed. I've been brushed away on it. And I am concerned about the blinking lights. The orange signs are there whether they're blinking or not. And I think there's different kinds of safety improvements with the 30-mile versus the 40-mile-an-hour. And we just haven't, I didn't attend the discussion that was in Lincoln this past week or two, Bob. So, because I didn't know about it. I don't know if I was allowed to even attend it because but anyway, you know, sometimes I bristle a little bit when I hear that this is Lincoln's point of view. Well, officials don't always respect, or I should, that's not the right word, they do respect, but don't always know the innuendos of living up here. So I just thank you again for letting me say the same thing over and over, but there are multiple alternatives. And the thing that concerns me is when Lincoln originally gave its opinion, it was before the first plan was even seen. All we were dealing with was concepts. And now we're at 100%. So I don't know what's going to happen. Bob, maybe you and Paula can say what's going to happen. But, you know, there's a big jump from concepts to 100% in a year. Thank you.
Jane and Paula, correct me if I'm wrong, but we had the 25-75 plans when Lincoln's position was submitted back in June. So we were not flying blind at that point.
I'm sorry, I forgot the dates.
Yeah. And somewhere along the line, I did bring up to MassDOT, and I can't remember when, the idea of a stop sign at Bedford Road. And I was told, forget it. Just,
Yeah, I
it
understand
ain't
that.
going to happen. So I
That's
have not.
not an answer. That's a fly in the pants. Oh, I'm not going to
Okay.
get out of this.
Okay.
Okay.
I just want to mention one thing. And actually, I've lost it now that we've. I'm sorry. I'll have to come back to it. I've lost it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, I got it. Sorry. Early on in the working group meetings, I proposed that if we support the crosswalks, I would be amenable, and I had not checked this position out with Lincoln, but I would certainly think it might be okay to defer installation of the flashing lights, pending us just seeing how the crosswalks work. That didn't change anybody's mind, really. But I'm just wondering how the entire group feels about that. Putting in the crosswalks, deferring the flashing lights. Is that just inviting a bigger safety problem? Okay, Clarissa is nodding yes.
I can't see everybody at the same time. So if people could at least raise hands, we could have some more regulated conversation. And I can't see everybody. So Clarissa, I see you now.
Okay.
Keep looking back
And I'm sorry to have to leave this important conversation, but Bob, it doesn't work taking part of the intersection design and doing it piecemeal, because it wouldn't be safe for the people crossing on the crosswalk. I am a landscape architect, and unfortunately for me, and this is no reflection on you, Chris Clem, I do a lot of work with MassDOT, and I know that they're very considered, and their plans work well for safety. I think saying to them, we want to go have the crosswalk without any way of stopping the traffic doesn't make any sense. And I'm really sorry to leave now, but I think this is a valuable conversation. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Clarissa. Okay.
Okay, well, when I had proposed not putting the beacons in initially, that I was not being disingenuous, and I was not trying to put us on a slippery slope towards flashing lights. I just thought it was a sincere attempt to maybe find common ground, but it didn't work. So
yeah. So at this point, my screen's a little funny. I'm sorry. Can people even see me? Melissa, you're occupying my entire screen.
Nancy, in your top right corner, you should be able to press view
Yeah.
and go to gallery.
It says speaker. It's already.
If you switch it,
Oh,
switch
go
it
to
to
gallery.
gallery.
Oh, that's better. Oh, yeah, yeah. I forgot the gallery was like that. Okay. So I think, do other people have anything to add at this point in time? And if not, oh, Chris, sorry.
Nancy, hi. No, that's okay. I saw Richard's hand up as well, so I didn't know if he was going to speak too.
Go ahead.
But this is, just want to quickly say that this has been a really constructive conversation, and I'm taking notes on a number of items that I will bring to MassDOT's attention for clarification. Everyone here, and especially for myself, having been on board only for the last 5 or 6 months. In short, I do want to say that I support the comments that have been made by Bob, Paula, and Clarissa at the beginning of the meeting. You know, MassDOT's #1 priority is to resurface the roadway and make pedestrian safety improvements in advance of the 250th anniversary celebration. So I think my concern is that if the project gets pushed out too far into the future, that's going to conflict with that celebration. Go through my notes real quick. Jennifer, regarding you awaiting an official response from MassDOT that there is no phase 2. I'm going to reach out to officials and get an official letter on that because I haven't been able to find anything on record that says that officially. Sorry, going through my notes again still. Richard, earlier you said about the speeding. Unfortunately, MassDOT cannot just put signs in to change the speed limit. I know that's very frustrating. I've lived by some roads that are, much too fast and dangerous, and unfortunately, that's just not the way things work. However, it seems, based on my information online, that requesting speed zoning is particularly easy, and so if this project were to eliminate the crosswalks, the splitter islands, all the traffic calming measures, then in the future, a speed study might actually just do the opposite and raise the speed limit, which is absolutely not what we want here. We'll make everything more dangerous for the drivers, the pedestrians, and the cyclists.
Chris, could you repeat that, because this relates to something also that Ross Morrow said at another meeting, but if you could repeat that.
Sure. So MassDOT can't deliberately change the speed posting signs in projects. However, they municipalities can submit a speed zoning request.
Oh, yeah.
Which is, I'm sure you've heard that from other MassDOT officials before.
Yeah.
But if that request were to take place after construction is complete, and the traffic calming measuring works, which they should. I know it's tough to always give MassDOT the benefit of the doubt, but the traffic calming measures will work, at least to some extent. Sorry, I have a couple of things I want to touch on really quick.
Okay.
About the signs, I know there's been a lot of frustration that there should be more signs, that this is an all-American road. The National Scenic Byways program will sometime in the near future, hopefully near future, there is a grant funding opportunity, which I will share with all of you when I receive word that it has become available. Before then, I will share some of the grant funding opportunities available on FHWA's website, so that in anticipation of this money becoming available, we can potentially begin to formulate a grant, so to ask for money for signs. Sorry if I'm jumping all over the place.
That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's all I have to say. Again, this is a really constructive conversation, and you're bringing a lot of things to my attention that I, didn't always consider, again, being so new here. But there's a number of questions I'm going to raise with other MassDOT officials, and I will respond and provide some more information in the future.
So one of the things I remember, and I don't remember which meeting, but Ross made some comment that the 85th percentile standard for speed studies and for setting speeds is an antiquated concept, and it's being seriously rethought. And he referred to a website where more information would be known. That 85th percentile has always been used to bolster a fear of increased speeds, even when the real concern of everybody is to reduce the speeds. So it's been a puzzling policy, regulation, law, whatever, for a long time. And I was just looking the other day and saw this note that Ross had said something about that. And do you know anything about that?
Officially, I don't. I've had conversations with one of our safety officers here at MassDOT, and they have started to, that's not really a rigid percentile. They'd like to change it. I don't know if anything official is actually going to be done. Based on the data that would be gathered from a speed study, if it's clear that cars are speeding, or excuse me, that traffic calming measures are working and cars are slowing down.
Okay, if you hear anything, or if you find out anything, could you?
I will definitely. I'm looking
Okay.
through my notes, but I'm not that fast on the fly.
And
But I'll look into that as well.
Okay, just to add to your list, one thing that's very important when dealing with sensitive areas, particularly historical areas, is the flexibility that Mass Highway might have to consider design exceptions. And I'm wondering, I'm really wondering, and I'll make this, I'll take it out of this committee and go back to the historical committee, but what considerations for design exceptions have been made so far? And, just what kinds of latitude and flexibility do they have?
That is a great question, but I'm not quite sure that a response from me is appropriate. I think an engineer would have more to say about that.
Yeah.
But I can ask Tim Paris.
Well,
and
it'll definitely come up in the 106 process again.
Okay.
So thank you. Okay,
Mhm.
I think, is there any appetite to make a motion on the study?
Sorry, I still have my hand up.
Oh, sorry, Richard.
That's okay. So I was going to respond to Bob's thing about beacons. And so MassDOT says the following, that a beacon at these crosswalks should always be considered, but not mandated or required based on engineering judgment at a marked uncontrolled crossing location. It's not set in stone that's the case. And again, when this was strictly a state scenic byway and a state road, MassDOT had all the say. Federal government is paying for 80% of this project, and they seem to have some different perspectives in terms of what's possible or not. And again, with respect to speed, the town of Lexington requested that this posted speed be reduced on Spring Street in Lexington. MassDOT did not do a speed study, as far as I believe, and they just said, okay, we'll reduce it to 30 miles an hour. So, that does happen without a speed study.
Thank you. Okay.
And the other part is, I'm sorry, I was missing. None of these towns are monolithic, and obviously there are different factors. I know our historical commission feels one way, and engineering obviously has different perspectives. And I'm not sure if Gene weighed in, but obviously, in order to determine what Lexington's position is, we need 2 of the 3 votes. So I don't know if Gene had weighed in at all on that.
Would you like me to?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I mean, I am troubled by the concept of the crosswalks going no place, and unless I understand a plan where there will be some interconnection to those crosswalks, I certainly cannot support their installation. So that's really the main premise for my concern about the recommendations of the report. I would like to see, I agree that there needs, and nor do I see any provision for safety for cyclists. That hasn't been accommodated by this at all either.
So just in terms of accommodations for cyclists, let me say the following, that MassDOT taking away all of the signage that they had proposed, number one. Number two is that the understood agreement among MassDOT, federal, it's all safety folks say that at 40 miles an hour, without accommodations, it is not safe to cycle on a roadway, especially a constrained roadway. So all of the safety folks say that at 40 miles an hour, this is not going to be a safe place to cycle.
Okay, is there any more discussion on this? And is it correct to assume that we are not going to take a vote on this report, or should we take a report on the report? And could we be brief?
Well, Bob had indicated that if we don't have a position on the sidewalks, do we agree on everything else?
Well, I
don't think we necessarily agree on everything else. I think there may be a
Well,
path forward.
What do we agree on is the issue.
I think we agree on asking for a waiver for timber-backed guardrails. I think we agree on, well, I don't agree that we can just ask MassDOT to reduce the speed to 30 miles an hour, repave the road, and think that's going to do anything. So I don't think that that's a viable option or something to request.
I don't think there's agreement that the report from the working group towards the end has this statement about, we should sort of make major efforts to delay the project for a year. I would say, based on what I heard today from the whole committee, that there's maybe the working group thought that, but my view was to bring the working group report to the committee, have it debated, discussed, and the committee could take a position. I don't think the whole committee supports delaying this whole thing for a year.
I would agree with Paul.
It's going to take time to reconsider even some of the things that we seem to agree on. So a year isn't fatal, I don't think. But that's I agree that maybe that was not. I think there's no agreement here.
So I think we could take a vote not to, as a committee, not to endorse this draft, and then as a committee decide on how we would like to proceed.
Well, is there any appetite for trying to edit the draft? To take out the last paragraph?
Well, my thought would be, if you want to go down that path to edit the draft, I would suggest whoever edits it, it would be good for someone outside of the current working group. I've personally been involved in that for better part of a month. It's been good. I enjoyed it, but I think it'd be good now to thank the working group and dismiss them, and maybe have some fresh eyes and ears try to do the editing.
Paul, I would just point out you're the only one who didn't do a draft in the working group.
Well, I sure had some comments on the various drafts.
Yeah, I know. I'm just teasing you a little bit. Okay.
Okay, let me just say that I think the idea of one person or one entity drafting something and then having it circulate around is going to lead to just an endless process,
Right.
which is what we've already had for about a month.
Yeah.
So I would suggest maybe each entity draft its own document in the hopes of selling it to everybody else. And I know what I think Lincoln would put in it, which is, if we're trying to get agreement from everybody else, we would not put in a recommendation about the crosswalks. We might submit a recommendation independently as a town to MassDOT, They already have our recommendation on that. But in terms of trying to get this group to some sort of a statement that we can submit to show that we have unity on most of the issues, I think each entity can draft its own succinct summary of recommendations without all the narrative about phase 1, phase 2, or prioritization of various goals in the CMP. I think it would be a pretty simple document to draft, actually. I think I just ended up volunteering to do it, but I don't know. Paula, what do you think? What do you,
It's just a letter that will go and say, you know, the Concord group of the Byway Committee does not want any crosswalks. The Lexington group is split. The Lincoln group wants crosswalks. The
no,
Arlington
I'm saying
groups-
eliminate the crosswalk.
So if you eliminate
paragraph.
that, then,
No.
you know, what are we saying? It would just be a
Reduce the
simple, it would
speed.
have to be a very simple, very short document that really doesn't address most of the specifics in the plan. So I don't know how everybody feels about that. I mean, you could attempt to draft something, Bob, and see what everyone thinks.
I guess one thing we could all agree on today is that we don't agree, and therefore each entity should submit its own individual comments to MassDOT and be done with it. I mean, that really is the position.
Is
we don't agree.
that a motion? Bob, is that a motion?
I mean,
Okay, I'll make the motion just for discussion. I'm not sure I'm in favor of it, but I will make that motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
Can I just make one comment before you vote? I think it should be submitted not only to MassDOT, but to MHC. Because as the 106 process, the SHPO is kind of a key voice. And I don't think we want to make sure that any comments that are made are both to Mass Historical Commission as well as MassDOT.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I don't think it's a good idea for the Battle Road Scenic Byway Committee, which is, you know, an entity and it has a mission charter, to then sort of split apart and have the 5 members submit their own individual views on this to the state. That to me defeats the purpose of the Battle Road Scenic Byway Committee.
And it's this is a problem that's going to follow us into the future for any phase 2, because I believe it's out there. But also for grant allocation, you know, the allocation of grant funding, or what if something happens in somebody else's town that seems really out of line with the creation of the All-American Road and the Byway. I mean, this is not going to go away until we submit or revise our governance, as Giles initially pointed out so long ago. So
No, I think people can have disagreement. They can disagree in a committee.
well, of course they do, but there's usually not 4 votes out of 5 required. That's all I'm saying. This committee, it's a super majority.
Yeah.
And it would seem that it's very hard to get to that.
Well, I think in this case, but I don't think historically that we've had such a problem agreeing on the work of the committee.
Was there anything similar?
Well, the work of the committee is
No,
has
I mean,
been-
as an issue. This
Yeah,
is.
well,
this
so,
seems
yeah,
like a
we
mega issue.
we had unanimous support on the letter we sent to MassDOT on the MPO funded East Lexington project resurfacing and reconstruction process. We had 5 votes for that.
Nancy?
That's interesting.
But we really deferred to Lexington on that. We didn't have an in-depth discussion of exactly what was happening.
Nancy?
Jane?
when I observed I think I was attended almost all of the working group, it was reiterated at the beginning of every meeting and throughout the meeting that everyone wanted the speed limit dropped. That was, and so I would hope that you would, and then everything was sort of predicated on that. And, then you could maybe accommodate the bicyclists and the pedestrians and the crosswalk and the historical nature. So I would hope that the committee could at least agree to try to get the speed limit reduced in the beginning, rather than put in the safety things and then I maybe decide later that they were safer to be taken out later. That's not a good use. I'm trying to remember how the working group was establishing its priorities. So I hope you can consider that and then let everything else fall in line.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so where are we? What do you want to do? The way I'm looking at this, we could recommend taking all non-structural, well, I won't say that, but reducing the speed limit sooner rather than later, any way possible, signage, different kinds of things. The work at Lexington Road and Airport Road as represented in the 100% plans, I think has support. 10.5-foot lanes have support. Really working hard on the guardrail exception is important. And of course, we support repaving. So I would just point out, if there weren't all these raised structures throughout Route 2A, we'd have a lot more money to spend on the guardrails, which would in themselves have a traffic slowing impact, I think, because people would then know they were someplace special. And neglect invites abuse. So, but other than that, I don't know, is that worth trying to take another crack at? The 106 process is going to be a while, I think. Is there a sense that we should try to coalesce around those things?
Yeah. Do we even know about lane width? I mean, was anything talked about at last Friday's meeting about 10.5 versus 11?
Yes, Richard, they said 10.5. 10.5 has already been established. I know it wasn't in the 100% plans, but MassDOT has made clear that 10.5 is in. The guardrails they want to use are matte brown. They said that they cannot use the timber backed. We can push for a waiver for that.
Yeah, that was what the park suggested, because they're being crash tested now.
So I think we can all agree that we'd rather have the timber front steel backed guardrails.
And then we just have to solve the connectivity problem and
Nancy, do we have the design justification report?
there
that we
is
had
a
asked for?
design justification report going back to process. The letter that we sent to Mass Highway on November 30th requested several things. I'm going to try to find it. Well, that was one of the things we requested, I'm sure. Let me see. Talked about a design public hearing. We talked about a specific request for the right-of-way survey, which should be a standalone document, a functional design report and a design justification report, a categorical exclusion checklist, even if it's draft, current traffic and accident data. The functional design report, if I recall correctly, was explained in Paul Stedman's letter or somebody's letter that wasn't necessary for this project because of something. I don't remember why.
Well, one of the things is that, supposedly MassDOT justifies why they think the crosswalks make it safer for pedestrians and
Good to see
cyclists.
that in writing.
And that's part of what we're probably, I mean, some of us seem to think we'll trust MassDOT's judgments. Others are saying on the surface, we know what all safety folks say about cycling on a 40-mile-an-hour roadway without any accommodations are. Maybe if we had the justification report, we could reconcile those things. Maybe we should be asking.
Well, we did ask for it.
To say that we want to comment, but without the design justification, we're at a loss.
Well, there's that, and
Well, could Chris Clem get us that report in an expedited manner?
well, it's not just that report. It was several things.
Well, list them and ask him.
Yeah.
I'm listening.
Chris, do you have a copy of? You have a copy of those. I'll send it to you if you don't.
It really feels contrived to say that we, at this point, need documentation to justify the fact that these features will slow down traffic. I mean, they're in the manuals, as Paul
No,
has
I think we
cited.
all understand that they will
That's not
slow
what it's
traffic
asking
down,
for.
but that's beside the point.
No,
Yeah,
that
what-
is the point, Richard.
No,
Yeah,
the point is to make it safer for pedestrians and cyclists.
It's all connected. I think we're at an impasse, Nancy. I'm sorry.
think-
I don't see
Yeah. I
us
think we
coming
are too.
together. And it's unfortunate, but the perspectives are so different.
Why don't,
that,
would you put that into a motion?
okay, I move that this committee acknowledges that we are at an impasse and we will not be sending a letter regarding this project to MassDOT.
Is there a second?
I'd second that.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Heather.
Heather.
I will speak against it. I think it's,
Richard, I think we know what you're gonna say.
yeah,
I don't disagree with some of your thinking, I must say.
sure, that's fine.
Go ahead. 1 minute.
But I think we should find what we can agree on.
There's a motion. Well, there's no second.
No,
Yes,
there's a
Heather
seconded
seconded.
it. Heather did. So we have to at least vote on this. And we hear you that you think we should at least try again to get something we can all agree on. So, Heather, you want to vote for Concord?
I'd vote yes.
Okay. Park,
Yes.
Paula? Yes.
Yes.
Lincoln, Lexington,
Sheila, Jean.
And I'm
Oh.
thinking,
I would like to see us try to get to some degree of commonality, and even if that requires sort of laying out what decisions have to be made in order to be able to achieve some commonality.
so that is Lexington, no.
yes,
And-
correct.
And the other 4 are yes.
Well, wait a sec. I would vote no on this because I'd like to consult with my colleague Clarissa. I'm in favor of us getting some type of statement from the Battle Road Scenic Byway in a formal way into the hands of MassDOT. We can't get it done today, but I don't want to.
So that's.
So I'll either vote no or I'll abstain, but I'm not in favor of that.
So whatever, it doesn't
So that
carry,
leaves, it doesn't carry, you're right.
Right.
So
which is fine.
that's
So
fine.
the
That's fine.
next motion I'm going to make is for someone to try and draft something that will be a common understanding of all the representatives of the Battle Road in order to submit a letter to MassDOT.
I,
And I
I,
think,
I will volunteer to do that. I feel like I'm a little bit outside the conversation, so I think, I don't know if it'll come out right, but I'm willing to give it a shot.
I think there's those 5 things.
I think the speed is a difficult one.
Well, you don't
We
need
all
to
want
be
it to-
specific. You don't need to be too specific about it. You could say more generally.
So
Do
we'll have-
everything possible to reduce speed sooner rather than later.
So can everyone shake their head that Sheila would be the one to draft? Is that
Yeah.
okay with everyone? Okay,
Yeah.
so the motion is
No
for
roll, no
Sheila.
roll call vote.
Hold on.
Okay.
The motion is for Sheila to draft a letter that she'll bring back to the entire committee, outlining the issues that we can all agree on, to send a letter to MassDOT regarding this project.
Yeah, and I would add, there seem to be 5 areas.
So is there a second?
I will
I'll second
second that motion.
Okay.
Okay,
So,
Nancy, do your roll call.
Arlington. Yeah.
Arlington votes yes.
Heather, want to vote for Concord? Yeah. Jen,
Yes.
Lexington,
Yes.
Yes,
and yes.
Yes,
Okay. I think that carried.
And just
So when does this have to be
operational,
done by?
operationally, I hope we're not going to feed comments back to Sheila before the next meeting.
that's
'Cause
right.
It's
It
going to
just-
turn it, that would turn it into a mess.
No,
Let's
yeah,
just-
yeah.
Let's just deal with whatever she drafts at the next meeting.
Yeah, I agree with that. Everybody.
Good point, Bob.
When's
we
the
can
next
move on.
meeting? When's the
So-
next meeting?
It should be that fourth Thursday. And that would be March
24th.
24.
4th. March 24th.
Nancy, I'm going to apologize to you and everyone. I am going to have to leave the meeting. Bob, you'll have to carry on for Lincoln.
That's okay. I
Okay,
think the rest of the meeting will go more swiftly because I'd like to table number 3, the response to the January 7th letter to the committee that was in response to Clarissa's, because I think same issues will come up there. Can I do that? I think I can do that as chair. Thank you. Okay.
And put it
so-
on the next agenda.
Yeah, okay, that's time. There's a question here about a preparation of the 2021 annual report. I don't know where one would find those, although I think I've seen one for 2015 and 16, but I've been looking around the town websites a little bit to try to see how the Battle Road Scenic Byway figures in any of the notifications or any of the documents that are used for meetings or the agendas, and it's very different. That's a governance question that I don't think we're going to take up today, but I do think we should think about an annual report before we forget about all of it for 2021.
So the MOU says that we are mandated to do a work plan for the year and to
Yeah.
do an annual report.
Yeah, among other things, among other
Right.
things. So this one I think is something we could, I could try to look back at all of the minutes that we have for 2021 and send a very rough draft around. It's always easier when you have a very rough draft than people could add to it, because you're seeing, I think members of the committee that have been involved for longer probably will have a broader perspective on 2021. So I don't know that if Concord undertakes to do a rough draft, I don't think that takes a committee effort. Richard, you have a thought? Anybody else? Bob, Jen? Paul, anybody? Okay, then I'll do that. The All-American Road Celebration. Paul, Jennifer, and Sarah have expressed interest about being engaged in that in past meetings. Jen, are you still in?
I am.
Great.
I will just say that sorry, what was this? It was Paul, myself, and who was our third person?
Sarah Mattis.
Okay. Apologies that I haven't reached out to Paul or Sarah yet, but I have reached out to Chris Clem.
Oh, right.
He's been trying to put me in touch with other national park sites who have had a similar event. So I have a phone call with Acadia National Park tomorrow, just to get a sense of how they dedicated their road. So I do appreciate the fact that this is a committee-based effort to share the ideas and possibilities between Paul and Sarah to then report back to the committee next month.
That's great.
Moving slowly, but looking ahead.
Would somebody remind me when we're planning to do this in spring or early summer? Is that correct?
I believe we were pushing it out to summer at this point.
Good idea. Seems like we're gonna, okay, thank you. Grants update. Chris, are you still hanging in there with us? Yes.
I'm still here, Nancy. I've no update so far. Had a national coordinators call just a couple of weeks ago, but still in the review and approval process, as has been for the last couple of months. But as I said earlier, I'm going to share FHWA's grant opportunities page with the group at large, or send it to one of you so you can disseminate, so we can all sort of start thinking about opportunities, in particular for signage, but other things as well.
I would really like to get something set up so that things like that could be posted to a central place. Concord has a place where not only current meeting documents are, but other foundational things are located. So maybe that's a task we could speed up once we get through the comment phase here. Does any other town or the park have any other updates? Okay, and we have the next meeting date is March 24th. Is the 10 o'clock time still okay with everybody? I understand that's what it was, and Richard's constraint doesn't exist anymore. Okay, so it'll be March 24th at 10 o'clock.
Nancy, before you close, I'd like to make a comment.
Oh, sorry, Jane.
That's all right.
Yeah,
I just want everybody to know that yesterday I drove along the Kangamanga Scenic Byway in New Hampshire.
Oh.
And, you know, the national USA, whatever. And only reason I did is because I was watching some other Zoom meeting by some conservation group who, oh no, it was Yankee on television. Public television, who talked about it being 30 miles. And I said, oh, I can do that. We were up in North Conway in the heat yesterday. And so we came back that way. And, you know, it must be beautiful in the fall because it was so boring in the winter. And I'm sure the summer it's like it's going through a tunnel of just trees, but the outlooks were to die for. So, you know, it's such the opposite of this byway. And I hope, though, we can still have spectacular moments here, too. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Jane. Okay, if there's no other public comment or business, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, okay. Arlington?
Second. Oh, I
No.
vote yes.
Yeah, you, thank you. Concord, Heather. Lexington,
Yes.
Lincoln.
Aye.
A man after my own heart. And Jennifer.
Aye, aye, Captain.
And Minuteman. Oh, you're muted. Jennifer, can I assume you're in favor?
In favor.
Okay, thank you. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.